What's up guys, Kyle with Cobalt here. Today we are going to show you how to build a C-Vue aquarium stand. Now today we're going to be building a 50-gallon C-Vue aquarium stand, but the same process holds true for all of the stands. The only difference being the 50 and 40-gallon have 2 doors, all the other ones only have 1 door. So if you just got a C-Vue stand, you want to know how to build it, we're going to take you through step by step. All right guys, so the first thing you're going to want to do is unpack the stand itself. Make sure all the pieces arrived from your store to your living room in great condition. Sometimes shipping can be a little crazy. We just want to make sure everything's nice and tight in there. Also, we want to lay out all the parts to make it nice and easy when we do start building it. The other thing to look out for is the instruction manual in there. It's going to be your best friend as we go through all of this. And to build the stand, you either need a Phillips screwdriver or a drill. And if you do use a drill, always make sure that you tone down the torque on the drill. We recommend half or less torque so that you don't damage any of the screws or anything like that for the stand. All right guys, so step 1 is going to be attaching our right side panel to our back piece. Now for the back piece, the large cutout goes on the bottom, the smaller cutout goes on the top, and those are cutouts for all your cords or any hoses or anything like that that you want to run through. To do this, we need 3 of our cam bolts, which look like this guy right here, and 3 of our cam locks, which are these little circle guys. Now if you're using a drill like I'm going to be using, the most important part again is to make sure you're set at least half torque or lower. You don't want to damage the stand or any of the bolts. To do it, all you have to do is line up one of the cam bolts with one of the nylon inserts, turn your drill on, and just very gently screw it down until it hits and bottoms out there. Now we're going to do this again 3 times here in all the little nylon sections on our right panel. And then we'll come back and we'll show you how to attach that right panel to the back piece. All right, now once those are in place, we need to take our 3 cam locks that look like these little silver circles. Notice that there is one side that has a little arrow that points. We want that to point at where the opening is. So with our side panel, the opening is going to be this direction. So you want to make sure your arrow is pointed towards that direction. If you don't have it pointed that direction, the cam bolt itself will not actually slide into the lock and we won't be able to actually lock it. So once you have those in place, all you have to do is slide your panel into the holes on the side. Again, take your drill or your screwdriver and just give it a quick little tighten. And it doesn't take much to tighten on there. We just wanted enough to hold everything and lock it in place. All right, now step 2 is going to be very similar to step 1, except we are using the left panel now instead of the right panel. Now, if you're confused about which one's the left and which one's the right, look for the orientation of this extra hole up here. That extra hole is going to be for the top brace. That always goes to the top of the stand, so that's how you can orient which one's the left and the right. You'll also notice that the hinge pre-drilled holes for the hinges are on the inside when we're putting this all together. Now, just like before, you need 3 cam bolts and 3 cam locks. The 3 cam bolts go into the nylon inserts, and just like we did before, those cam locks go into these holes here, oriented with the arrow pointing out, and then you lock them down. All right, so we're already on to step 3. Now step 3, the first part is going to be putting all of the cam bolts onto our bottom piece. Now it's very important to make sure you have the bottom and not the top. The easiest way to tell is on the bottom piece, you'll see various holes for the feet to be mounted, and it will not have any nylon inserts along the front edge. So for this step, we need 8 of our cam bolts, these guys right here, and just like before, we're going to use our drill on half power to drill them all into their nylon inserts. All right, the next part of step 3 is often done better with a friend, but you're going to want to pick up our already assembled shape and set it down onto our base. Now make sure you line up all of the cam bolts with their holes. All right, and for the final part of step 3, we're going to take our 8 cam locks and we're going to lock these bolts into place. Now remember, the arrow on the cam lock has to face the direction of the bolt, so in this case they're going to face down. And all you do is you pop them in, take your screwdriver or your drill, and give them a little lock in place. And we just repeat that 8 times to finish locking the bottom onto the stand. Okay, now we're on to step 4, and step 4 is attaching our front panel right here at the top of our stand. Now the first part of step 4, just like the other steps, is going to be putting cam bolts in these 2 nylon inserts. Okay, once you have those cam bolts in place, we're going to line both those bolts up with these 2 holes here on the front of the stand. Now when you put this in, make sure that the lip, this part right here, faces down, because that's where your doors will rest. All right, and finally for step 4, once that's in place, we take our 2 cam locks, and just like the other steps, we need to put those cam locks in and lock those bolts in place. And remember, that arrow has to point towards the bolts. All right, step 5 involves taking our top panel and mounting that to our stand. Now the first thing we need to do, just like the other steps, is take our cam bolts. There's going to be 12 for this one, and make sure that every one of these nylon inserts gets a cam bolt in it. Finally, we're going to fully attach the top panel to the stand. Now, to figure out which side is the front on the 40 and 50 gallon models, look for these 2 holes right here. These will be for our center brace. If you're doing an 18, a 26, or a 45, those 2 holes will not be present. So it's going to be the same forwards or backwards on those. Again, it helps to have someone lift it up to center it on there. And you just line up the holes, watch your fingers, you don't want to lose any, and drop her right on. Now just like before, we're going to take our cam locks. There's going to be 12 holes on the inside here. Orient your cam locks with the arrows facing the bolt and tighten them down. All right, now step 6 is going to be inserting our shelf here into our stand. For that, you're going to need 4 of these. These are the shelf holders. They're little plastic pieces that have a metal back. And that metal back goes into these 4 holes that are on the inside of the stand here. You want the flat part of the shelf holder facing up so that everything sits nice and level for you. All right, and once those are in place, you might need to give them a little bit of a tap with a hammer if they don't go in easy for you. That's perfectly normal, but once those are in place, you want to put your shelf in. Now remember, the cutout in the shelf to run your cords needs to face the back so that your cords can go in and out the holes in the back. All you do for the shelf is just pick it up, align it with those shelf holders, come in nice and gentle, and let it down on there. So step 7 is going to be installing our center brace on our stand. Now if you have one of the smaller tanks like the 18 or the 26, or you have the 45-gallon tank, those are going to skip this step because they only use one door and they don't need that center brace. If you have the 40-gallon or the 50-gallon like we have here, we are going to need this step. Now to install this, you're going to need the L brackets that you have in your hardware kit, as well as 8 of the small brass screws that you'll find in there. On the back of the center brace, you'll see 2 holes at the top and 2 holes at the bottom. You'll line up those holes with the holes on the L brace and screw them in with your screwdriver or your drill. Now we need to actually install the center brace. Make sure when you're going to put your center brace in that this cutout here goes up at the top, and that's what goes behind our top panel here. So if you look at the bottom of the stand, and if you look inside at the top, you'll see 2 pre-drilled holes there and up here, and those line up with the holes on the back of our L bracket. So again, we just take our drill or our screwdriver, we line up those holes using the smallest brass screws that come with it, and we drill it in. Now we're on to step 8. Now step 8 is going to be different if you have a single door or double door model. If you have the 18, the 26, or the 45, you'll do this one time. If you have the 40 or the 50, like we have here, you'll do it twice. What we need to do on this step is attach our soft close hinges onto our doors. How to do this, you line up the door part of the hinge, which has 2 screw holes, into these pre-drilled holes on the door. Now you'll notice when you set them in there, the holes here line up for your screws. For the screws, again, we're using the shortest brass screws that are in there. All you have to do is line them up, take your screwdriver or your drill, and drill them down. So step 9 is mounting our doors to our stand. Now what you're going to want to do is line up your hinges with these holes on the inside of the stand. For every size except for the 50, you will have 2 hinges. For the 50, you'll actually have 3 hinges. Now on the door, for the 50 gallon, you'll want the single hinge up at the top and the double hinges down at the bottom. Again, all you have to do is line them up, and we're going to be using our small brass screws again to drill right into those holes. Alright guys, we've reached the final step of our assembly process, and it's actually the most important part of the entire process. That is step 10, attaching our self-leveling feet. Now these feet are very, very important. When you set up an aquarium, you want to make sure it is as level as possible, and these are special self-leveling feet. They're designed with little chambers on the inside that allow the feet to flex a little bit. So as you add the water and the rock and the sand and everything to your tank, it'll flex and level itself right out for you. In order to do this, we need our long screws and our feet. You'll have either 4 or 6 feet depending on your tank size. There are pre-drilled holes for all of the feet on the bottom. So all we have to do is drop that screw in the center of the foot right there, line that up, and drill it right in. So there we go, guys. That's all it takes to build a C-Vue aquarium stand. Now this works for the 18, the 26, the 40, the 45, and the 50-gallon C-Vue aquariums. The only difference between them being that the 40 and 50 both have 2 doors instead of 1, like you saw in this video. If you'd like more information about the tanks, please check out our website, cobaltaquatics.com. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We post stuff like this all the time. We hope to see you on the next one.